Welcome to my second introductory video to Luminar 2018. It's going to open an image that I saved earlier. This is one that I imported into Photoshop, but I didn't actually do any editing on it. So we're just going to open it up in Luminar 2018. This is a photo from a holiday in Italy a few years back. As you can see, Luminar's automatically opened up the street presets, and these basically are presets already set up for you, which you can tweak yourself, or you can take them or leave them. The 1960s black and white has plenty of grain in it. I'm not sure which film stock they're emulating there. It looks quite grainy to me. You can obviously undo that using the undo button at the top. Just zooming in and out just to check the image. Center of attention, as you can see, that makes some improvements, but it sort of looks like a bit mushy to me, a bit smoothed out. There's a lot of color noise and luminance reduced. You can, of course, decrease or increase back up the amount of the filters that make up that particular preset. I'm just going to put that back up to 100%, and then just going to show you the before and after, so you can see that it's certainly improved the image in lots of ways, but at the expense of structure and detail. And we zoom out a bit, we see the whole overall image. You can see that there's some slanting verticals. I've just shown you now on the right hand side the different filters that center of attention is using. And you can tweak these, so you've got much more control over the preset than just sticking with the 0 to 100%. You can actually even delete particular filters that are part of that set and basically create your own presets in essence. These are different workspaces. They're not currently available on the Windows version, but will be coming soon. And obviously this is going to give you a set of features relevant to that particular workspace. So we've chosen the street one. And we're just going to show you what happens when you use various tools. Just to tweak. I'm trying to take out any color casts using the eyedropper tool for the white balance. You can change it to a shot or custom if you prefer. Put it back to what it was, a shot. That's custom. By tweaking, you can see using the temperature tool. I'm obviously exaggerating the effect so you can see it clearly, but you get the idea. It's always fiddly getting it back to 0, but you can go up to the history thing and just put everything back to as it was originally, which is what I've done here. So back to the original image. I'm now going to choose a workspace, so we've chosen professional here, So the filters we're getting are on the right hand side. I don't really need the strip of presets at the bottom because I've decided to go with the professional workspace. So I'm using this on a Mac, on a PC at the moment. Workspaces are not implemented, but will be so soon, done so soon. So I'm just zooming in here to 300% to have a quick look around. I don't see any chromatic aberrations that need fixing really. There's probably just a very, very faint hint of a chromatic aberration. As you look at the edges, you can see a very faint sort of bluish turquoisey tinge. It's hard to tell because it's hardly there really. And so you can adjust for that with the red cyan and the blue yellow sliders. Similar to the way you would do it in something like Lightroom. So I'm just going to zoom back out to 100%. I basically re-zeroed everything in the chromatic aberration. Now looking at the transform tool. Now it's not as sophisticated as Lightroom. You don't have any auto buttons basically to do or choose specifically to emphasize verticals or whatever. So I'm just using the vertical manual here to get where I want my vertical lines to be more straight up and down rather than being tilted in as they are at the moment on the edges. So I mean, as far as the center of the image is concerned, I'm happy with the verticals there. But because this was a shot taken at the wide angle end of my kit zoom lens when I had my Samsung NX11, there's still some distortion at the edges. You can see that by correcting the verticals a bit, we've already lost at the bottom edges of the corners some of the building. This is just showing you that would be barrel. Oh, sorry, this is to de-vignette. This is you know, some lenses you end up with sort of darkness in the corners, and if you had a lens profile that you could use like you do in Lightroom, then you could correct automatically for the lens's own characteristics, but here we have to do it manually. So that would be a handy feature at some point if we had profiles for lenses. Just thinking about the best way to try and get, the more I tilt it so the top half of the image goes up, so we straighten the edges, the more the outer edges sort of don't line up. So this is where a tool that has some auto settings like in Lightroom will be a bit easier, but you can play around with these different parts of the transformation tool. Quite often an image isn't taken with your hand holding it on the level, so you can use the rotate to adjust for that, and sometimes you need to do that first before you start playing with the vertical. Otherwise it makes matters worse, not better. So I'm just tweaking the rotation, zooming in again to check there's no distortions in the center of the image. I haven't gone over the top with adjusting things. So I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get it at the moment. So just looking at some of the other tools. There's a Denoise tool for luminosity noise, luminance noise I should say, and color noise. I don't really see any real noise in this image, which is quite surprising really, because the Samsung NX11 I did find that color noise could be a problem, but usually only above 800 ASA. or ISO these days, showing my age. So, also you'll see under the denoise a boost, so that's how much you want to apply, what strength. In Lightroom you've got slightly different settings available to you. So I'm not going to do any denoising, I'm just going to look at saturation and vibrancy. I think I can illustrate another time if it needed any tweaking in that area. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the accent AI filter, which was recently introduced into Luminar. If you make sure that when you click filters, you have to have the little eye in the circle clicked, which you'll see in a minute. There we go. And then you get a sort of information. So accent AI filter is a smart enhancement with the help of artificial intelligence. So that has a sort of a set of tweaks that it does. So we choose that, then we get to decide how much we want it to impact the image. I'm just closing down some of the ones that I'm not going to use. Not really going to do any split toning or HSL adjustments at the moment. And might come back to polarizing. So I'm not doing advanced contrast. I've done the color cast using Auto 1. So you can see each filter will have some information and an example of what it is that you're correcting for. So here we can see obviously a green cast to the image, the sample image. So I'm just going to do the accent AI filter from within the workspace rather than adding it, because it was already included in the professional setting. And as you can see, it's made a marked difference to the image. It's brighter, more saturated, but without overexposing the sky and other highlights. And it's lifted the shadows. And it does a good job of it without making it look too HDR. So that's at 100%. You can see at the bottom still we've got the bits of the image cut off because we haven't cropped yet to take account of the just in the verticals. So I'm going to quick look round at 100%, make sure that there's no artifacts that are generated. Obviously I should be waiting for the image processing down the bottom left hand of the screen to finish. So I'm zooming in a bit more now just to check whether there's any noise that was there that's been exaggerated by the filter. You can probably see there's a little bit of color noise, but we are at 200%, so this really is pixel peeping. Though you can see what it was like before and what it's like now. They don't line up the two halves of the images because the right hand side is showing the vertical adjustments, the left hand side is the original image before those adjustments. That's why they don't line up. But I think you can see that there's a marked improvement. Just fit to the screen so you can see all of the image. And I think it's done a pretty good job of it, personally. So that's using the accent AI filter. So just close that down for the moment. Dehaze, that brings back it's good at bringing back the sky. If you've got a sky that's a bit dull, or you've lost some of the highlight detail, then you can use the Dehaze to bring it back. The only thing I find is that it does, if you do use it 100% on some images, it produces artifacts. 200%, you might just be able to see in the areas where you've got one colour. There's a bit of an artifact. The main thing is, though, we're going to be looking at it at 100% or less. You normally view a picture from a distance. You don't have it right up to your nose, as it were. So we're not going to use any of these other tools apart from the Polarizing Filter. So if you remember the days before digital, if you're or if you're a film user today, a polarizing filter would often be used to cut through the reflections off the surface of water, or to give the sky more impact. And the polarizing filter on the right hand side does basically the same job, but it's digital, so you can tweak it. If you take a picture on film with the polarizing filter, well, then you've got an image that's got the polarizing filter effect, and you can't remove it really unless you scan it digitally and then play around in a program like Luminar. So you might as well have taken it on the digital. So I'm just showing you some of the structure. Obviously brings back the detail in images. A lot of HDR effects tend to emphasize the structure to give it the appearance of a bit more bite and a bit more detail. But I don't like to have too much of a HDR effect in my images. I'd rather look as real as possible without going into the realms of sort of extreme HDR that seems to be popular at the moment with a lot of people. So as you can see now, I'm zoomed in at 300%, and even a little bit of structure is causing a bit of artifact. That's along with the other adjustments I made earlier. So put it back to 0, and letting the computer do its job, because I'm using a MacBook Pro, but it's quite elderly, showing its age. We're not going to do any LUT mapping and dodging and burning, but you've got all these options available for you, and plenty more if you just use a standard Workspace. The Distortion Tool under the Develop section on the right is another tool you can use for correcting. So basically, one extreme, like we've got there on the right, gives you what they call the pin cushion effect, which modern lenses can adjust for. And certainly in modern software, if you've got a profile for a lens, well, the lens has a built-in profile. And I'm just playing around with it, see if I can get these verticals at the edge to straighten up a bit without overdoing it in the center. Obviously 100 is too much. So we've gone too far towards pincushion. Now we're going the other way, and we've got what we call barrel distortion. So it's somewhere around the 0, and I'm just trying to work out which side of the 0 it needs to be. And I think that I might have to compromise. I mean, it's partially made difficult by the partly made difficult, I should say, by the building on the left. Well, both buildings on the left are really old buildings, and let's say they're a bit wonky with age, so they don't. You find in old towns like this, which is Castiglione Fubocchi in Tuscany. Hope I said that right. Apologies to all the Italians if I got it wrong. We had a wonderful holiday there, but a lot of the buildings were very sort of, should we say, not straight, very quirky angles and verticals. And one of them it must have had lots of repairs over the years. I'm not even sure whether maybe been earthquake damage in the past. But yeah, it looked like it had been put together by a child using anything to hand. Maybe I'll do that image another time. So yes, we're just tweaking here to get the verticals. And I know I'm going to have to compromise for the end result. And this problem arises because I basically used the widest angle setting on my camera kit lens, which I think was 28mm equivalent. So again, just tweaking the distortion, trying to get it absolutely, or perfect's not within reach really. There's too many old buildings in this picture. I can't harmonize all the verticals, but I can try and get it the best I can. Looking at the histogram top right, there are no hot pixels for burnt out highlights or blocked up shadows. So I think we're probably going to be done with this image very soon. I think I've done as much as I can. There's the before. I'm using the eye icon at the top of the window. You could use the vertical split line. So I've just moved everything out of the way so I can see the whole image. I'm now going to crop it to get rid of those grey empty spaces as a result of attempting to correct the verticals. Now if you don't hold the shift key down, you can have any crop you want, but it won't be the same ratio as the original. So if you hold the shift as you do it, you can keep the same ratio, and then you can, with the mouse button, you can move the image around within the crop parameters until you feel it's got everything that you want, and we end up there with I think a much improved image. And I'm quite pleased that there was the before, there's the after. I think I definitely prefer the after. What about you? So up at the top right, you can export it to your Flickr account, your SmugMug account, mail it, attach it to messages, or tweet it, or put it on Facebook, or open it in another program to do further editing. So you have got a lot of noise and you prefer to work with a specific program to sort the noise out. I'm just going to export it to image. So I'm just showing that at the bottom you do get more choices off to the right, so you have to scroll through them sometimes because there's too many to fit on your screen. So just going to show you if I select one of the presets and compare it. So I'm going to select the cold morning. That's the before and after with the cold morning and the original image there. But actually, I prefer my version than the cold morning. So I'm going to stick with that. And I think we're about finished with this image for now. And I hope you've learned something that's been useful to you. So go back to where we were before, but I'm going to reduce the boost for the accent AI filter a little bit. I think maybe 100% is just a bit too much for my taste, but you might have been happy with 100%, others might be happy with only 50%, but I think I'm going to go with 76%. I think you can actually type in as well. If you click on where the number is, you can type in any number from 0 to 100. So finished, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG. So once that's saved, we're almost done. Close the program down, and then we're finished. Just make sure that when you close it down, you don't save changes, because that'll affect your original file, which you want to leave alone.